While Optimus and the Dinobots work on their escape plan, Shockwave and Nemesis continue the experiment to give Breakdown, Jetstorm, Nightbird, and Stinger life. Nemesis clutches the Matrix by the handles, a look of uncertainty in his eyes.
Your soldiers are prepared for you, Nemesis Prime. Without Optimus's influence, their programming should remain intact. They will follow your, and by extension, my every command.
Will they not have free will?
Of a sort. Even on Cybertron before the war, bots fresh off the assembly line were programmed with their purpose. They knew their function as swiftly as they learned to walk. The Functionists were short-sighted in their ambitions, but their methods were effective.
Here we see another point where Megatron and Shockwave differ. Megatron despised the Functionists and sought to tear down everything they stood for. Shockwave just thinks they thought too small. He's perfectly content with a society where everyone is programmed with their purpose before coming online. They're easier to control that way, after all. He just felt that the Functionists didn't use this pre-programmed society to its best potential. They were too concerned with their pseudo-utopian society rather than any sort of advancement. Under his rule, he believed, such a society would become the greatest empire in the cosmos, spreading from Cybertron to Earth and beyond. Megatron, for all his faults, believed in earning the loyalty of his soldiers. He often did it through fear, but he did earn it. Shockwave seeks to cut out the middleman and have his soldiers be born loyal to him. Of course, Nemesis came online in an unorthodox manner. Thus, he sort of inherited Optimus's independent streak. As such, he is shown to be conflicted about Shockwave's programming of his brothers.
Should they not be given the chance to choose their own path?
I fear that you have inherited too much of Prime's idealism. We are Decepticons, Nemesis Prime. Peace through tyranny is our way. Though under my leadership, tyranny will come second to logic. Giving these others the level of agency found in the Autobots will make them difficult to control. I would require the loyalty of every one of them in order to stake my claim over the other would-be Decepticon leaders. I can leave nothing to chance. It would be illogical. But this discussion is over. Prepare the Matrix, Nemesis Prime.
Much to his own chagrin, Nemesis obeys. He grips the handles of the Matrix tightly and raises it overhead.
Matrix of creation, I call upon you. Grant to these others the spark of life.
As he speaks, the Matrix responds, recognizing him as an extension of Optimus Prime. This is what makes Nemesis potentially so dangerous. The Fallen and Sentinel would have been unable to use the Matrix, as it would have recognized the corruption in their sparks. However, Nemesis shares a split spark with Optimus, probably the most worthy Prime there has ever been. Thus, the Matrix reads him as Optimus and heeds his commands. Similar to how Spider-Sense doesn't register Venom as an enemy because Spider-Man wore the symbiote for so long, making Venom arguably his deadliest foe. Not his most powerful or greatest, but deadliest. Superman is one of, if not the most powerful member of the Justice League, but I wouldn't call him the deadliest. Clark has way too many limits. As Nemesis speaks the words, 4 beams of azure light shoot forth, striking the other 4 in their chests. We watch as energon flows through their systems and sparks begin to form. They come online, their eyes activating. All 4 look down at themselves in astonishment.
We live? How is this possible?
Excellent. My calculations were correct.
I know you.
Yes. I am your creator, Shockwave.
They look at each other for a moment before dropping to their knees. Nightbird asks how they may serve Shockwave.
Patience, Nightbird. Your first mission will begin shortly. Before that, however, there are some loose ends I must see to.
Shockwave departs. Nemesis looks between him and the other 4. Something about seeing them prostrated on the ground irks him, but he's still hesitant to speak out against Shockwave. From there, we cut to Joyce, who was on the phone with the head of the Hong Kong division. 50 more units have been completed since he was last in Hong Kong, bringing the total KSI bots to 145, with Nemesis and the others being AWOL. Joshua is pleased with this revelation. He is less pleased by the visitors that he finds in his office after he emerges from the elevator.
Hello again, Mr. Joyce.
Oh, you, my friend, are the last person on this planet that I want to see. I can confidently say that I would rather stare down the barrel of Optimus Prime's rifle than see you. Now, here's the door. Get out. I'm afraid I can't do that. Attinger rises to his feet and Savoy puts a hand on his piece.
We have a situation.
No. Really? Is that what you call losing 5 very expensive, very dangerous prototypes in the CIA? A situation?
Shut your mouth and listen. We've been compromised from the start. Our mutual friend.
He is cut off by the monitor suddenly activating. Shockwave's voice carries over the computer screen.
Mr. Joyce, Mr. Attinger, Mr. Savoy, I'm afraid that your part in our partnership is no longer necessary.
What?
The test run of Nemesis Prime and the other prototypes has proven more successful than even I anticipated. And now you have delivered the remainder of the prototypes to me.
The camera cuts to the factory where the inactive prototypes are being stored. Panning down, we see that Shockwave's ship is parked in catacombs underneath the facility, concealed by a holographic projector. Nemesis Prime clutches the Matrix in his hands and steps onto an elevator with the other 4. The gem in the Matrix's center is glowing brilliantly. As Shockwave monologues, the elevator carries Nemesis and the others to the factory level. Workers scramble as the ground opens up beneath them. Holo projectors deactivate, revealing that the factory is, in fact, the upper deck of the ship. The factory walls begin to transform, much like Trypticon Station in War for Cybertron, forming into, as Optimus theorized, the upper deck of a Decepticon dreadnought. The humans flee for the exits, only to be vaporized by a decontamination protocol, rendering them skeletons, then dust, then atoms. The non-ship part of the facility crumbles as Hong Kong citizens watch a massive alien spacecraft start to hover over the city. Optimus crawls into the maintenance shaft just as the engines activate. A look of urgency enters his eyes. Nemesis stands in the middle of the facility, where the other 145 robots remain hooked up to machinery, and raises the Matrix over his head.
You and your laborers have been useful, but are no longer required. This legion you have created for me will be an effective starting point for my ascension. And what better way to field test them than by eradicating the population of one of Earth's most prominent cities?
As he says that, the screen flickers, revealing his true identity to the 3 humans. You're a Decepticon? We've been working with a Decepticon this whole time?
Attinger's prejudice and your ambition blinded you to the truth. You could not see that the entirety of your success rested on the shoulders of one you saw as an enemy. Now perish with the knowledge that this calamity was your doing.
The transmission ends. Attinger falls back in his chair, Savoy leans against the table, and Joyce runs to the window, watching as the ship ascends.
What have we done?
Nemesis opens the Matrix. Light floods the chamber. All 145 other robots begin to awaken, as they are granted the spark of life. Crimson eyes activate. The newborn Transformers extricate themselves from the machinery and approach Nemesis Prime, their life-giver. A holographic image of Shockwave materializes in the midst of them.
Decepticons, I am Shockwave, your master. By my will you have been given life. Each of you have already been programmed with your prime directive, to serve me and obey my commands. This is my first order. Exterminate the human vermin in the city below. Follow your commander Nemesis Prime to victory, and once you have been sufficiently tested, the true mission will begin. Unification of all Decepticons and conquest of the universe.
A bay door opens beneath them.
Give the order, Nemesis Prime.
Nemesis looks up at Shockwave, then around at his new soldiers.
Decepticons, attack!
The newborn Decepticons enter freefall, leaping down to the city below. Citizens scramble in fear, some of them reliving horrors that they remember from 5 years ago. Because, as you recall, the invasion was worldwide, and only ended because Megatron and Sentinel died in Chicago. They cannot run fast enough, however, as the Decepticons move swiftly. Unlike the invasion in Dark of the Moon, though, these Decepticons aren't looking to enslave the humans, just annihilate them. However, Nemesis Prime finds himself unable to kill the humans. Though he raises his weapon, he cannot pull the trigger, but can only stand and watch while his brothers commit terrible atrocities. Optimus makes his way through the maintenance shaft. Eventually, he's greeted by a fork. He thinks about what he knows about dreadnoughts and elects to continue straight, and before long comes to the bridge. He spies the control panel for the cells and opens the shaft, moving as stealthily as he can. He dodges several standard-issue Viacons that patrol the bridge. Shockwave had something of a skeleton crew to keep the ship afloat, as it were. Prime is able to evade them. He walks past the control chair, which is facing the opposite direction from him. Imagine Megatron's throne from G1, but somewhat more plugged in. He seems to be in the clear as he draws closer to the panel. As he reaches out, however, a jolt of electricity zaps out from it, causing him to cry out in pain.
Astonishing.
The control chair turns around, revealing Shockwave, his single eye glaring out of the darkness.
You are more resourceful than I gave you credit for, Optimus. Yet not nearly resourceful enough.
He rises to his feet and fires his cannon at Optimus. The Autobot dodges out of the way. The security shield absorbs the blow, preventing the panel from being damaged. However, the shield itself has begun to lose integrity. Prime rolls to his feet. He reaches behind himself before remembering that he dropped his axe and rifle before getting captured.
You have lost, Optimus. This city will be razed to the ground, and my army will usher in a new age of the Decepticon Empire. A pity that you will not live to see it.
Perhaps this will be the day that my spark is extinguished. But if that be the case, then I'm taking you with me.
He unsheaths his energon blaze from his forearms and lunges at Shockwave. The Decepticon scientist does not flinch and fires his cannon again. Optimus dodges and leaps forward. He slashes in Shockwave's direction. As in Chicago 5 years prior, Shockwave is less adept at hand-to-hand than Prime. Unfortunately, without the Matrix, Optimus' stamina is halved. Shockwave recognizes this and goes on the defensive to wait his opponent out. The strategy works in his favor, and he's able to land a blow that sends Optimus sprawling backwards down off the throne dais. He slams into the control panel, the impact causing the shield to fully fizzle out. As he struggles to his feet, Shockwave stalks slowly towards him.
An ignoble end for the noble Optimus Prime. Take solace in this, however. Your demise will mark a brilliant beginning in my reign.
Has anyone ever told you? You talk too much.
Optimus hits the release button, causing the section with the Dinobots to detach from the rest of the ship. It jettisons towards the outskirts of the city. Shockwave realizes what has just happened.
Congratulations. You freed those beasts, but at what cost?
Before Optimus can respond, an impact shakes the ship. Both glance out the windscreen and see an Autobot shuttle materializing. A volley of blaster fire blasts a small hole in the hull. Optimus offers a mock salute to Shockwave and dives through the hole just as the maintenance drones start to patch it up. Shockwave glares after him as the hull breach closes. Optimus goes into freefall. The shuttle swoops down to catch him. The bay door opens, and Bumblebee reaches out to grab Optimus. He's able to pull Prime into the shuttle.
Good to have you back, sir.
He hands Prime his rifle and axe.
It is good to be back, Bumblebee, but there is no time to celebrate.
The two of them enter the main deck.
Prowl, take the ship to the outskirts.
Outskirts? But Prime, Decepticons are rampaging through the city.
Yes, and we'll need an edge if we're going to fight them.
Prowl looks at him with stunned silence, but obeys. The shuttle sets off to where the prison section detached. It lands and the Autobots exit. Growling noises come from the still sealed hull.
Bossbot, whatever's in there doesn't sound too happy. In that cell are 5 Autobots that have been kept prisoner for far too long. Today, they earn their freedom.
He takes his axe and lets the energon in it charge up, similar to Kratos with the Blades of Chaos mixed with a lightsaber, and he begins to hack away at the cell wall. After a few swings, the hull begins to glow from within. Optimus jumps back as it explodes outward. The Autobots watch on in shock. As the dust settles, 5 gargantuan figures lumber free of their prison for the first time in 1,000 years.
Dinobots are free.
The Dinobots breathe fire into the air in celebration. The other Autobots are aghast at the sight, but Optimus looks on in pride. He approaches Grimlock, who transforms and kneels beside him.
You are true to your word, Optimus Prime, and Grimlock is true to his. The Dinobots will fight with you.
Grimlock? Is that you?
Bumblebee, Prowl, Bulkhead, Wheeljack. Grimlock knows you. Grimlock does not know you two, though.
He gestures to Drift and Hot Rod.
But you are with Optimus Prime, and so you are with Grimlock.
He turns back into T-Rex mode and lowers his neck. Optimus mounts him and holds his axe aloft.
Autobots, for too long we have been hiding, allowing our enemy to rise again. I say no more. This day, we put an end to Shockwave's reign of terror. This day, we save humanity from destruction once more.
Optimus, with all due respect, how are the 12 of us supposed to take on 150 Decepticons?
We will not be fighting alone, Prowl.
He calibrates his antenna on the side of his head. His Autobot insignia begins to pulse as he sends out a transmission.
Calling all Autobots.
The signal goes throughout the world, being picked up in South America, the UK, Japan, China, continental Europe, and so on. We cut back to just outside Hong Kong as Optimus closes his transmission.
I hope to Primus that reached at least someone.
So what now? Do we sit around and wait for a response?
No, we do what we can until help arrives. Autobots, roll out!
He and Grimlock charge forward, followed by the other Dinobots. Bumblebee transforms and follows immediately. The others glance at each other for a moment, and then follow suit.
I don't know how he does it. He makes you want to fight for him. Die for him.
That's because he's Optimus Prime. Joyce, Attinger, and Savoy watch from KSI Tower as Hong Kong is laid to waste.
This is all our fault. We thought we could beat them at their own game. Turns out we were the pawns, not the players.
This was not our doing. It was them.
How blind do you have to be? Your pig-headedness and my delusions of grandeur have caused us to play right into the enemy's hands. And unlike last time, we don't have any Autobots to save us because you sent them all into hiding.
We do not need Autobots. Autobot, Decepticon, two sides of the same coin.
You idiot. Nevada, Giza, Chicago, it was always the Autobots that stopped them. Sure, you and your goon squad could take out a lone one, but a full-fledged attack force? What are you going to do against that, huh?
Outside, fighter jets swoop in and try to strafe the Decepticons, only to be blasted out of the sky by turrets aboard the ship.
Oh, look. There's the military, going down in flames. You see, Mr. Attinger? We tried to play God and just ended up delivering the means of our destruction into the hands of the enemy.
This is merely a setback. Once he levels the city, Shockwave will take his army and leave. That'll rid us of him and we can start again.
Even if that wasn't the most deranged comment I've ever heard in my life, you don't have any evidence to support it. What's to stop him from attacking Beijing next? Tokyo, Moscow, Paris, London, Washington? How many cities can he level before we can stop him? Face it, Mr. Attinger. Armageddon has come, and we are his arbingers.
Attinger is forced to face the sickening truth that this entire mess rests on his shoulders. Stricken by whatever passes for guilt in his sick mind, he slumps down in a chair. May God forgive me. The camera pans up to the conflagration consuming the city. A KSI Viacon corners a small family and is about to blast them when he's suddenly consumed in fire. Grimlock charges through, crushing the now melted Viacon. The family runs to safety as the Autobots charge onto the battlefield. We get a prolonged scene of the Autobots gunning down KSI drones, not too dissimilar to the final battle of Dark of the Moon, just with a new cast. I'll describe the highlights as they go. This first little bit is the most mindless action, quote-unquote, of the lot. Classic hero fare taking out nameless, faceless minions. The cool confrontations will come later. While the Autobots fight, Cade and Tessa try to get people to safety, being useful in a way that humans would be useful in a giant robot fight. The Dinobots are real game changers, giving the Autobots the upper hand despite being outnumbered. Drift and Bulkhead end up engaging in a bit of friendly competition, a la Legolas and Gimli from Lord of the Rings. At first, Prowl objects to this contest, but finds himself joining in as well eventually. Hot Rod's confidence returns, allowing him to deal some serious damage. Even Wheeljack gets in on the action, which is pretty cathartic for him considering where he's been the past few years. The Autobots are able to cut a swath through about 50 of the KSI bots. However, the element of surprise doesn't last long. Shockwave notices his men falling and sends a transmission to Nemesis.
Nemesis Prime, the Autobots are attacking. Focus your efforts on them. Destroy them all.
Understood.
The Decepticons begin to fight back in earnest, and the Autobots find themselves overwhelmed, no longer facing a distracted enemy. In a similar scene to the original movie, the Autobots are backed into a corner and forced to fight off foes on all sides. Shockwave aids the army with a series of bombardments and deploys some of the Viacon crew to bolster their numbers. Even the Dinobots find themselves overwhelmed. Then one of the drone's heads suddenly flies off unprompted. Another is sent flying backwards by an invisible punch, and a third is shot through the spark. As that shot goes off, a cloak shimmers off, revealing the familiar white and blue visage of Mirage.
Thought you guys could use a hand.
Above, a familiar large jet, though now in black and red colors, flies into frame, and takes out some KSI and Viacon seekers. Dropping from the jet's cargo bay is a small black and pink motorcycle that transforms in midair and cuts another drone's head off.
The cavalry has arrived, Optimus.
Together with the familiar RC Mirage and Jetfire, two shuttles enter the scene, one bearing the Elite Guard insignia, and the other the symbol of the Wreckers. A stern voice comes over the comms.
Reporting for duty, Optimus, sir. It is good to see you, old friend. Autobots, the tide has turned. Attack!
The Autobots face off against the now just under 100 Decepticons. Jetfire takes on the Seekers while the shuttles begin to strafe the Dreadnought. In the background, we see some Autobots diving from the shuttles into the fray, including the Wreckers Roadbuster, Whirl, and Topspin, and the Autobots Cliffjumper and Hound. With the arrival of reinforcements, the Decepticons are forced onto the back foot. Jetstorm notices Jetfire and takes to the skies. And who are you supposed to be?
The new and improved model.
The two of them enter a dogfight. Jetfire is larger and has more firepower, but Jetstorm is significantly faster, especially with Skywarp's teleportation abilities, and far more ruthless. Down on the ground, Nightbird spies RC taking on 3 Viacons at once and chuckles wickedly to herself. The two fembots engage in a ninja-style duel, Nightbird mentioning that she's happy to have an actual challenge. Bulkhead grabs 2 Viacons and slams them together before being struck from behind by the hulking figure of Breakdown.
Been waiting for a rematch with you. Here I am, big boy. Come and get me.
The two Titans clash, Breakdown demonstrating more viciousness than he did before. These mini vignettes allow us to see the KSI bots with personalities rather than as mere programmed drones. Their fighting styles haven't changed over much, but there's something more to them now. Jetstorm is cunning and ruthless, Nightbird is quick and precise, Breakdown is murderous and destructive, and Stinger, well, we'll get to him. Unlike Nemesis Prime, who came online with an inherent struggle, the other 4 were born as the perfect Decepticons. Shockwave programmed them with enough cruelty and mercilessness that the only thing that changed when they were given sparks is how those traits manifested. Nemesis, however, had his programming overridden by Optimus's, and the two programs are currently at war with each other. Of course, the programming does bring up the Parthenax or Orc question, whether or not these 4 are truly responsible for their actions, if it's just in their nature, and if they have the potential to change. Unlike Professor Tolkien, who could not come up with an answer to that question before passing, I do have an answer, specifically for this scenario, that is. The Orc scenario is much more complicated, and I understand why he was never fully satisfied with it. The bots are not responsible for their programming. However, they are responsible for what they do outside of the bounds of that programming. Currently, they are operating entirely within mission parameters. The responsibility for Hong Kong rests on Shockwave, Attinger, and Joyce's heads. However, that does not mean that they are not dangerous. Much like Yoda dealing with the clones that tried to Order 66 him, because the clones also were not responsible for their actions, the Autobots stopping the new Decepticons here and now is necessary, even if Optimus would rather let them live outside of Shockwave's control and choose their own path. Right now, it's the lives of millions of humans against 150 newborn Cybertronians. Optimus knows where his priorities lie. Bumblebee and Stinger's confrontation is similar to the one in the original film, down to Swoop being involved in it. Not Strafe, because Strafe is a Technobot. However, Stinger is a more emotive character in this version of events, proving to basically be Bumblebee's exact opposite. Where Bee is kind, gentle, and compassionate, though absolutely no slouch in a fight, Stinger is perhaps the most cruel of the KSI bots. He's sadistic, menacing, and actually seems to enjoy hurting humans. This is where outside of the bounds of their programming comes in. Shockwave said to eradicate the humans and then to destroy the Autobots. He never said to torture the humans with electricity. When Bumblebee and Stinger first face each other, the Decepticon is using his stingers to hurt humans who are unable to evacuate. He is intentionally not letting them die and seems to get some sick glee off of their screams of pain. This gives B a better reason to hate Stinger beyond him being a cheap knockoff. Bumblebee arguably loves humans more than Optimus. He values each individual human life as something priceless. So seeing something that looks like him hurting humans in such a sadistic manner causes him to fly off the handle. As in the original movie, their fight ends with Stinger's demise. Across the city, Optimus sees Nemesis Prime standing on a vantage point overlooking the battle, with the Matrix tucked just behind the windows on his chest. Optimus leaps off of Grimlock and transforms into truck mode. Hot Rod notices Prime speeding off and decides to follow him. Optimus barrels into Nemesis and transforms, drawing his axe. Nemesis draws his sword in turn. Instead of immediately clashing, the pair circle each other, as if neither is sure where this battle is going to go.
So, what happens now? That is entirely up to you. We can end this right now. No more lives need be lost. Call off your soldiers and return the Matrix to me, and I will allow you and yours to depart in peace. You did not choose this fight. It was chosen for you. The fate of your brethren and humanity rests entirely on your shoulders now. And what of Shockwave? Shockwave's crimes are numberless, and they have gone unanswered for far too long. He must be terminated. My brethren, they are programmed to serve him. And I was programmed to be a data clerk. It is your choices, not your programming, that determine your destiny. That is why I am willing to allow you to take your remaining fellows and depart in peace. The atrocities committed this day rest on Shockwave's head alone. Remaining fellows, did you not think to give those who have already fallen a choice? If I thought it possible, I would have. But you are different from them. You already know what being free of your programming is like. They are acting solely on instinct now. Only you can sway them away from this. I regret those who have fallen, but I could not allow any further human casualties. For the first time in a millennium, new Cybertronians have been born, and you still concern yourself with humans. You place them above your own kind? Why? On the ship you told me that you believed all beings can choose the path of good. Does that not apply to those you have slain? Of course it does. But a leader must make a choice. Must weigh the needs of the many over the needs of the few. Just one of our kind is capable of laying a human town to waste. A single Decepticon destroyed an entire military base without suffering a single injury. Human life is no less precious than our own, simply because they're smaller and weaker. Megatron believed that strength determined worthiness, and that mentality led to Cybertron's destruction. Please, Nemesis, do not allow it to lead to Earth's.
Nemesis ponders the words. He wrestles between the sense that Optimus is making and what he was created for. As he thinks, we see Hot Rod drawing nearer to Optimus's location. Nemesis drops his sword and clutches his head.
I do not know what is right. My mind is torn, divided. Let me help you, please.
He sheaths his axe and extends his hand. Nemesis glances at it just as he did back in Chicago. This time, however, he reaches for it. He pauses slightly, and then opens his chest. He pulls out the Matrix and extends it outward.
This belongs to you.
Optimus nods and reaches for the Matrix. This moment of connection is interrupted by a meteoric mass striking the ground beside them. Shockwave, having jumped from his ship, now stands before them.
What are you doing, Nemesis Prime? Destroy him. Now.
No, I am not yours to command.
Illogical. I am your creator. You will obey me.
I will choose my own path, and I choose freedom.
Shockwave stares at him for a second, processing what he's just heard.
Enjoy your freedom, then. It will be brief.
He then blasts Nemesis Prime at point-blank range, sending the duplicate flying backwards. The Matrix flies from his hands. Optimus draws his axe and charges. Hot Rod dives from his hiding place. Shockwave blasts at Optimus's axe, shattering it instantaneously and knocking Prime back with the impact. The Matrix nearly hits the ground before Hot Rod grabs it. As it lands in Hot Rod's hands, it glows for a brief moment. Hot Rod barely registers this. Optimus, heads up! He throws the Matrix at Prime, who reaches out and grabs it in midair, placing it in his chest in one fluid motion. Blue light bathes the battlefield, as Optimus is returned to his full strength.
Shockwave, your monstrous agenda ends here.
He kneels down to pick up Nemesis Prime's sword, which changes in color from a violent red to a brilliant azure. Shockwave steps back and aims his cannon at Prime. Optimus grips the sword with both hands and it glows more brightly. As the cannon fires, Optimus bats the burst away with the sword, which seems to have been supercharged with the power of the Matrix. He charges at Shockwave, and the two brawl. As with both of their other melee encounters, Shockwave is outmatched, but Optimus is not letting him escape this time. Shockwave pulls out his miniaturized control pillar, but Optimus aims a blow at his right hand, severing it. Shockwave attempts to fire at Prime, but is unable to get a shot off. In a desperate bid, he kicks Optimus in the knee and transforms, driving off.
This is not the end. This cannot be the end.
He turns a corner, only to find himself face to face with 5 furious Dinobots. From behind him, Optimus and Hot Rod are closing in.
Shockwave, you torture us. You experiment on us. You imprison us. You make us monsters. Now we make you dead.
All 5 Dinobots surge onto him just as Prime and Hot Rod arrive. Shockwave is unable to hold off 1 Dinobot, let alone 5. For the first time in his life, Shockwave feels something, and that something is fear. Followed shortly after by agony. Hot Rod looks away as the Decepticon scientist is torn apart by his own creations.
Justice.
After saying that, Optimus turns back to where Nemesis is. The black hole energy has given him a grievous injury, and we see him starting to expire. Optimus kneels beside his doppelganger.
Did you stop him? Not I, but others whom he has wronged. Then he's done for. Good. As am I. There is a chance we may be able to save you. You are more resilient than most. No, I was never meant to exist. My chassis, my form, even my spark is a pale imitation of yours. I could never be my own being. I would always be a shadow of a true Prime. But let my final act be one worthy of a Prime.
He activates his comm link.
Decepticons, brothers, stand on. Shockwave has fallen, and so have I. You no longer need to be constrained by the parameters of your programming. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings, and it is your right. Go, my brothers and sisters. Embrace freedom. Leave behind the tyranny of Shockwave and become whatever you choose to be. Until that day. Till all are one.
His speech plays over a montage of the other drones reacting to his words. We see some of them turn on the pre-existing Viacons and shoot them. Others drop their weapons. Some surrender to the Autobots or tear off their Decepticon insignias. Others, break down a Nightbird included, flee, still bearing their symbols. Jetstorm transforms and perches atop a skyscraper, a look of ponderance on his face, before also vanishing into the distance. We'll be seeing those three again. After Nemesis finishes his speech, his spark expires, and he fades to gunmetal gray. I've got to tell you guys, I would not have guessed that this is how Nemesis's arc would end. My ideal Nemesis is a more sinister character, but as I wrote this script, his internal conflict became far more interesting to me than writing him as another pure evil Decepticon warlord. His ending reminds me of Dinobot 2 from Beast Wars, standing up to his leader in one final moment before suffering a fatal injury. And Shockwave, well, someone like him definitely deserved the scar treatment. As the battle comes to a close, the Autobots gather together. Cade and Tessa emerge as well, having seen as many survivors to safety as possible. Savoy, Joyce, and Attinger exit the tower. Relief is painted across Joyce's face, while fear is painted across the other two, once they see the Autobots standing there. Optimus sees them and approaches.
You.
Mr. Prime, let's not get overzealous here.
Your actions nearly doomed this city and countless lives.
I know. I accept full responsibility for my actions, and I intend to make it right. To you and everyone else. From this day forward, I am shutting down KSI's Transformers division and dedicating my resources to helping rebuild.
Are you deranged, Joyce? This was just a setback. We can start again. We can't let these things bully us into submission.
I'd stand down if I were you, Mr. Attinger. You've got 3 human witnesses to your crimes right here. You're not holding the cards anymore.
Autobots, detain those men.
Prowl and Drift cut off Attinger and Savoy's escape.
Let's go home.
Cut to a short time later. The Autobots have returned to the U.S. We see members of Cemetery Wind being arrested, including Savoy and Attinger. The President holds a press conference with the Autobots present, officially offering them amnesty and sanctuary, and reforging the Human Autobot Alliance, as them saving Hong Kong from a joint human and Decepticon threat proves them to be true allies. We see Shockwave's Dreadnought being repainted into Autobot colors, and being christened the Ark II. After the ceremony, Cade is approached by 2 familiar figures. One, a brown-haired man in a wheelchair, the other, a young blonde woman. Chip and Carly extend Cade a position at the newly reinstated Nest, placed under the full command of General William Lennox. Cade looks at Tessa, who nods, and he accepts. Optimus approaches Carly. The two exchange words about Sam. We cut to another time, as 2 funerals are being held. One for Sam, and one aboard the Ark II for all the fallen Transformers, including Nemesis Prime, and excluding Shockwave, whose remains were incinerated by the Dinobots. Some of the KSI bots have been fully instated as Autobots, and we see naming ceremonies for them. And, of course, Optimus gives us his closing monologue.
There will be times when the darkness seems to be too much to bear, when all hope seems to be gone. But I promise you that in those moments when it seems darkest, there is a light on the horizon. Hope is never truly gone. Not so long as it lingers in the sparks or hearts of those who champion freedom. My name is Optimus Prime, and I send this message to all Cybertronians displaced by the actions of our enemies. There is a refuge here with us. And to any who seek to reignite the fires of war or crush us beneath the boot of tyranny, know this. Greater than you have tried, and all have fallen.
Credits roll. A brief mid-credit stinger shows us the KSI bots who fled from Hong Kong. As they attempt to get their bearings, a gray and red jet swoops overhead before transforming and landing in front of them.
My, what manner of lost souls do we have here?
Who are you?
Your savior.
And with that, we bring Age of Extinction to a close. It's taken a while, and the story has definitely taken a different turn than I expected as I've written it, but now at long last, we bring this rewrite to an end. As always, thank you all for joining me on my quest. If you enjoyed the video and like what I do here, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel further, please consider joining the Knights Realm Patreon for $1 a month and get access to exclusive content, including videos not available on YouTube and supercuts of my rewrites. Or if you'd like to request a future video topic or vote on pre-chosen topics, you can join at $5 a month, or leave a super thanks in the comments below. I will also be instituting YouTube memberships here in a while, so keep an eye out for that. In any case, I will see you all on our next adventure, whenever that may be.